for the organization to exist one day, I hear this morning she was appointed SG. So she's not in the room. I really want to recognize her, but working hard to support the decentralization process in Kenya. And for the past 15 years, she has been moving from the work in Kenya. Of recognition to you. Thanks for helping us to meet here today and be who we are. So the third person is just someone who's serving as a regional advisor for peace and governance under the blue flag of the UN in West Africa, and that happened to be me. So I'm very humbled to be here today, and I wanted to share this story just to say that this morning when you were in the General Assembly, you probably reported about a number of results for EALGA. But one of them, which I really want to put an emphasis on this afternoon, is that EALGA has contributed to build a great governance potential in East Africa. As we work across the continent who we are today, and being that institution which can 11 sustainable cities and communities, which I think is very core to the work of EALGA. 11 is responsible consumption and production. 13 is climate action. 14 is life below water. 15 is life on land. 16, the one which is so close to the heart of so many of us, it's about peace, justice, and strong institutions. And the last one, which EALGA stands for, is also for partnership for the goals. So those are the core elements of the SDGs as an agenda. And without taking a lot of time, allow me to invite the panelists for this afternoon. And I will start with Honorable Jilalo Abdul Bahari from the Ministry of Devolution in Kenya. You're welcome, sir. Kindly help me welcoming our panelists this afternoon. Allow me to invite His Excellency Martin Wambora Nyanga, the Chairman of Council of Governors from Kenya. Please have a seat. You're welcome, Your Excellency. Please come forward. The third panelist is called Jean-Claude Nyirimanzi, the Acting Director for Statistical Methods from NISR Rwanda. You're most welcome, Jean-Claude. We also have online, and I hope is able to see us. I would like to seek support from our technical team at the back. We'd like to see if the camera could be set as we welcome the third panelist, Pascal Byarugaba, the representative of the Office of the Prime Minister and the SDG Secretariat in Uganda. Pascal will be joining us this afternoon virtually, and Pascal, I hope you can hear us. Also asking our colleagues at the back if we could see the screen and see Pascal from where we are. And finally, I'm welcoming Aisha Uwase, who will be on the panel to show the power of youth and gender equality with us. You are welcome, Aisha. I'm not going to share the details of the bios from the different panelists, but as you can see, we have high-level personalities and we have a lot of wisdom and expertise on this panel, which they are going to share with us this afternoon. Without taking a lot of time, I would recommend that for more details on the bios, please look at the booklets, and we'll move immediately to give the floor to the keynote speaker, Honorable Jilalo Abdul Bahari. You are most welcome on the floor for your keynotes.
Thank you, Madine, for this invitation. Ali Jilo. So that Jilalo is the one which was, Jilo was the one which was giving you a problem. So let that go on record. Councillor Ghulam Hafiz, Chairperson Gatabanzi, was here with us in the morning, or his representative, the Minister for Local Government, Rwanda. Moving forward, the United Nations Agenda 2030, that is commonly referred to as SDG goals, adopted in 2015, embodies the development blueprint for the world. while expressing the universality of leaving no one behind. The world, therefore, committed to the implementation of the 17 SDGs that were outlined here a few minutes ago to contribute to the inclusive growth and sustainable development based on the context and realities of the individual nations. So the 17 goals were very clear. Every nation was supposed to go and implement in its own context. And the realities of the individual nations, but with the common understanding to attain the objectives together by 2030. Despite commitments by different countries to submit to agreed voluntary national reports to track progress made, many countries still fall behind in attaining the set targets. Fact findings resulting from a number of these voluntary country reports presented at the High-Level Policy Forum of the United Nations held on July 2021 show that many African countries are not on track pertaining to their likeliness to meet the SDGs at the 2030 deadline. Development held in Victoria Falls, Zimbabwe, African states in February 2020, appreciating the challenge in meeting agreed SDG targets, recommended countries to conduct sustainable development reviews at the district, governorate, and the municipality levels with the support of the United Nations Economic Commission of Africa. The question then is, what does this therefore mean for us as the East African leadership of local governments and municipalities? It is clear that the local government, municipalities, and secondary cities have been identified as the emergent vehicle to accelerate the implementation of the SDGs as we stride through the last decade of implementation. We must further acknowledge the reality that the relationship between the East African nations and their decentralized units is critical in realization of these goals. And you are aware that most of the times, some of these resolutions and commitments end up being at the top, at the national level, and it never trickles down or takes a long time before it trickles down to the local communities. A disconnect between a number of potential solutions are feasible. For a start, our governments are called upon to focus more resources to the specific areas that target the realization of the SDG targets, because this cannot happen without us deliberately allocating additional resources or prioritizing the specific areas, because those are the areas that are going to make a difference in the lives of our people. It is also important that a stronger voice of local governments, and I think this is now underlined and emphasized, be heard at the decision-making levels of the East African community. This forum certainly is one of the key forums that is going to take that intention forward, because you must be heard, you must participate, you must implement, because it is at that level that we are going to make a difference. It is also important that it is in this regard that it is our proposal that ministers responsible for local governments in the region be incorporated as members of the East African Community Council of Ministers, so that when sectoral meetings are held on very, very specific areas, then that agenda of the SDGs with the focus at the municipalities, at the county governments, at the local governments are kept on the agenda on a continuous basis. This will go a long way in providing the long-desired input into the EAC policy formulation and fits well with the meeting theme of leveraging the role of local and county governments to fast-track achievements of East African integration agenda. As leaders of county and local governments, this congregation becomes very important in formulating proposals for areas of convergence between subnational governments and the EAC agenda. As I conclude, let me submit that we need to review our commitment to the ideals of delivering the aspirations of SDGs. We are all aware that with the fast-changing world, failure to meet the targets will have very grave consequences. This may as well be our best chance. Let's make use of it and ensure that we realize our objective. Asanteni sana.
Thank you very much. I think he deserved more than that. for brilliantly setting the stage for the conversation this afternoon and calling all of us to renew our commitment to this global agenda, because it's all about our people and our own well-being. So I'll move quickly to our panel, seeking for their inputs, and I will request that we spend a maximum of 5 minutes per question, which will also allow the audience to join us and contribute or ask some questions. Allow me to start with you, Sir, Your Excellency Wambora Nyaga. We heard the call for action, and we also know and recognize that local governments across the region have been doing a lot to localize the SDGs through health, education, and across the 17 goals. According to you, what are the main challenges local leaders in East Africa have been facing in their efforts to localize SDGs?
Times I'll do that because I'd already written some notes. Will I have that chance?
Please, you can do that, sir, no problem.
Sorry?
You'll have time to also deliver a speech.
Okay.
And you're free to either start with the speech now, because
Very
it
good.
would also inform us.
I can do
and
that?
later, you'll also be invited to contribute. So
Yeah,
please,
I think that's better.
thank you. Please go ahead.
Well, our latest 2010 Constitution of Kenya came up with a very clear schedule for county government. County governments in Kenya, 47 of them, are really having most of the functions which were previously done by the national government to fund those services.
Thank you very much. Taking note of your last points, that the challenge is us being able to mobilize resources to implement and fast-track the implementation of the goals, I'll maybe move to Pascal, who's joining us online. I'm not yet seeing him on the screen, but counting on the support of the colleagues. Pascal, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Thank you very much. Pascal is a representative of the Office of the Prime Minister and from the SDG Secretariat in Uganda. Pascal, you have just heard that there is a challenge in terms of funding. So how can central government better finance SDG domestication in East Africa? Over to you.
Thank you, Nadine. I think straightforward is that financing of the SDGs is it has so many faces and many aspects in it. One, I hope you can hear me, Nadine.
We can hear you.
Of course, SDGs within the national development frameworks. For instance, in Uganda, the SDGs have been integrated fully in our national development plan. And interestingly, for instance, in Uganda, we also, our national development plan has 17 programs, which are so much aligned to the 17 SDGs. And so that tells you that in terms of financing, in terms of resource mobilization, it can be pretty easier for the government of Uganda, for instance, mobilize resources that are aligned and are targeting and focusing on the implementation of the SDGs. So what that means is that even the local governments, for instance, they have to do the same. The local government development plans have to be aligned to the national development plan and also reflect the SDGs within there. But then most importantly is that our East African nations need to decentralize implementation of government programs. Yeah, for instance, in Uganda, we know we have a decentralization policy, which gives powers to local governments to plan and implement different programs, but of course, with guidance and collaboration of the central government institutions or ministries. But then what we see, for instance, in Uganda is that we see a lot of program implementation being centered in the city at the ministry level, at central government. So whereas we have a decentralization policy on the paper, but when it comes to implementation of government programs, it is still so much centralized. So that means that we need to reduce inequalities in managing resources, especially between central governments and local governments. So it means the local governments have to be given more power, of course, to collect resources that through taxes, like they always do, but also to plan for the taxes and the revenues they collect, instead of these revenues first going to central government and then back to local governments, and sometimes they don't get what they expect or even what they collect anyway. So that is one of the key components of how the central government can support local governments. But then lastly, one more important aspect is definitely to build the capacity of local government leaders, both technical and political, to be in position to understand and appreciate what the SDGs are, and also to harness the local potential within the local governments, local potential, especially when you look at the existence of the private sector, to support local development initiatives in the local governments, so that then they can support implementation of SDGs at local government level. So thank you for now.
Thank you. Realization of the SDGs.
Thank you, Nadine. As you said, youth have been part of the process. I can say these SDGs, the goals that set, but for something to be sustained, needs to engage those people who are available today and tomorrow. And those are us, youth. So youth have been part of the process from the beginning. Like there is a program of ESC called Raising the Flag, which is aimed at staying in schools. It aims at telling the students, young children, youth, to stay in the school. And youth were the ones who are taking part of it. It was contributing to the providing quality education for the SDGs. There was, we have climate change in one of our SDGs, taking action on climate. Youth are the ones in actions, are the one in this fighting of green, for example, in Rwanda, for those who have seen Rwanda, how it's green and clean. Youth are the ones in this process. Or in ESC, we have a youth policy, and it focuses on more of SDGs. And I would say youth are the ones who was participating or taking part in youth policy of the ESC, which is focusing more about the SDGs. So I would say youth are contributing in implementation of SDGs, but still have a long way to go of owning it, taking it as our priority in everything. But for now, we are not at the bad stage. We are doing great. We have organizations that do on SRA, HRA, which contribute on health. for SDGs. So I would say we are on forefront of implementing SDGs.
Thank you very much. I think we can feel how impressive young people are in this region. Happy to hear from you, Aisha, that the EAC has a policy on youth empowerment, which I think is a very good thing, as you're also the future of this region and all the countries. I'll now move to the data. When we talk about SDGs, there is a lot of debate around where are we now and where do we want to go. And the National Institute of Statistics in Rwanda has a very interesting motto. They say,
producing and publishing statistics. As we said, to support the monitoring of SDGs at local level, local governments, every statistics from surveys and censuses is disaggregated. Blueprint of production of statistics towards monitoring the SDGs, as you said. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Going back to Pascal. Pascal, we are hearing a call for action for local governments and for central government to continue supporting and engaging local governments in SDG localization. So my question to you, if you can hear us, and if they can help us with the screen as well, is we know a lot has been happening at local level, and we have a lot of success stories of local leaders driving change by implementing and domesticating the SDGs. So can you please share with us at least one success story of SDG localization, which has helped in fast-tracking national development, but also helping the country to build a legacy of commitment and a legacy of us being together in developing on a global agenda. Over to you, Pascal.
Thank you, Nadine, once again. I have many success stories actually from Uganda, and one of them is localization and creation of awareness about SDGs within local governments. So what we've done, for instance, in Uganda is to reach out to the many district local governments and municipal and cities that we have in Uganda to tell them about the SDGs, tell them what their role as local and technical and political leaders is in regards to SDG implementation, monitoring, and reporting. Now, of course, there are so many aspects we look at when we are creating awareness or even building capacity. So one of them, there are aspects of data to ensure that data is in the discussion of the SDGs, given that they have a role to play in terms of implementation, but a role to play in terms of monitoring those particular indicators. And then the other, and that is done through voluntary local reviews. Voluntary local reviews, as some of you could be aware, is a new approach that has been adopted by the UN member states, geared towards increasing the engagement and participation of local governments in SDG monitoring and reporting. So Uganda, for instance, was lucky that it were among the first 4 countries in Africa that were chosen and participated alongside Cameroon, Ghana, and Zimbabwe to pilot this approach of voluntary local reviews. Basically, voluntary local reviews is localizing the VNRs, the voluntary national reviews, at local government level. So we piloted this in one of our local governments in Uganda, and then we've been able to scale it up in additional 7 local governments. We have also been working, and actually there's a lot of interest from other local governments to uptake the voluntary local reviews. We have also been working with the ECA to come up with the voluntary local review guidelines, which has been completed. Now we are planning to roll out this approach in all the local governments and the new cities in Uganda. Then the other aspect is that as we are creating awareness, of course, even we have actually worked with the CSOs. We have worked with, for instance, EALGA in Uganda, CSOs with a particular campaign of a translated word of Tonde Kamabega, meaning leaving no one behind. It's a Uganda translated word of leaving no one behind. And it's our phrase we use in localization of the SDGs, but also creating awareness. And then in that awareness, we identify champions at the district level. And champions, in our case, is the chief administrative officers for local governments, then the town clerks for the cities and municipal councils, and then the LC5 chairpersons and mayors, the political leaders, and the resident district commissioners, the RDCs. These are the champions who everybody in the district local government should focus on when it comes to the SDGs. So in terms of, then lastly, like I said, of course, the approaches are many, but I know time is not our best ally. The other approach we have actually used is the translation of the SDGs. This is, of course, some of you could be aware, Uganda, we have so many local languages. So we have made an effort to translate some of these SDGs into local languages. So far, we have translated the SDGs into 13 local languages, but we are continuing to do translation so that the common man understands. Wherever we go to the different regions and we are having, for instance, community sessions, people are in position to appreciate what the SDGs are. Then lastly, as I finish, we are also coming up. This is in pipeline. We are also coming up with the SDG localization guidelines. This is very key because many stakeholders, especially the CSOs, the NGOs, have been reaching out to the SDG Secretariat saying we need to localize the SDGs. But of course, we appreciate the fact that they have different interests of localization. Some want to localize aspects of data, some want to create awareness in the community, some want to build the capacity, some want to support integration of the SDGs within the local development plans. So we have decided to come up with a localization, a harmonious tool that will guide and support localization of SDGs by the different stakeholders, especially at local government level. So thank you very much, Nadine.
Thank you very much. That is impressive. For the sake of time, as we are trying to catch up with the hour and some minutes which we lost earlier, I'll maybe invite the panel in the East African community. How are you planning to work with them to localize, and what can they do also for young people? Over to you, Aisha.
Thank you. As it is leaving no one behind, also you shouldn't leave behind. In every step of the SDGs, of the ESC agenda, you shouldn't leave behind. We have the effort, and what we can thank the ESC is that we got a platform. We have a table in ESC of sharing, of learning, of traveling. We get that from ESC, but we still need more to go. We still have a long way to go. So I would say engaging youth from planning level to the implementation level. Also telling the youth to own the agendas. You might find, like, for now we are talking about local governments. You might find youth are not interested in local governments. You find that we are low number in elections, we don't vote, we go for voting. Youth are not more engaged in this process. So I would say ESC have opened the platform for us, but also it's up to us youth. I don't know if we have them in the room or I'm the only ones, I don't know. But if there is youth who are here, it's up to us to own the agenda. As we have this platform, it's time to use it. And also avoiding what I can call intergenerational gaps. Like on the table of old people, there is no youth. On the table of youth, there is no old people. Why we need to run from each other? We need them to understand the world we live in, and we need to run from the world they have lived in. So I would say we get this opportunity of being on this table, so it's up to us to own it and use the opportunity we have given. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aisha. You know, we are in the decade of action for the SDGs, like the last 10 years to fast track on this agenda. And one of the things I think the UN globally and even states have been doing is, one, we have to renew commitments and fast track action. And maybe before we leave this room, if we could at least confirm again, Aisha said loudly, we want local leaders in East Africa to engage us. So I'm looking at the leaders in the room. Are we ready to engage the youth as part of EALGA and as part of the EAC and as part of the assembly, as I'm seeing some honorable? Are we ready for that? Honorable Abdul Bahari, we were very impressed by your keynote speech, and we will be very interested to hear your last voice, your voice for this session before we end.
Thank you very much. I think it's been nice to hear all the comments that we have had, but I'll just touch on very few issues, around 4 of them. One, I think, including my governor here and my friend, His Excellency Honorable Wambora, the issue of resource limitation has been raised. I want to say that since there are very many actors in development, and these goals have been set at such a high level and has been cascaded downwards, then all the players, the private sector included, the CSOs, and the government must get this streamlined and mainstreamed through the development agenda, such that then resources do not go into other areas, but these ones are prioritized. That way, then we can realize better results and be able to perhaps realize our goals by the year 2030. And secondly, and finally, I think local authorities or local governments, county governments, should all streamline the issue of volunteerism, particularly in respect to youth and the others, because world over, volunteerism contributes a significant percentage to the GDP. And therefore, since youth most of the times are very keen and participate a lot of in voluntary work, then if we are able to identify that at the local authorities level or at the county government level and get this streamlined, then we are likely, because that is another additional resource, we are likely to realize our objectives perhaps faster than expected. Thank you.
Thank you very much. His Excellency Wambora, I'm not leaving you behind in the SDG era. You will allow me to skip you and go to Claude. Claude, from the statistical point of view, what can...
Thank you very much. I will take this opportunity to call all participants here present statistics, but we are also investing a lot in using new sources of data to produce more and more indicators that can help in monitoring SDGs. In that area, we are now investing a lot as a country in developing big data analytics. You know that all indicators cannot be monitored through traditional sources. That's why we need more and more efforts in developing these skills, in using these new sources of data that are called big data. So it's needed that everyone at each level to invest a lot in developing these new skills of producing new statistics, especially for those indicators that are not yet having sources from or having data from traditional sources. The second thing is promoting the collaboration in strengthening the production and dissemination and the use of statistics for the sake of monitoring SDGs. In Rwanda, we have started the initiative for strengthening or collaborating with children, for instance. Children, we have an initiative called Reading Data with Children. How these young people can be involved in developing the statistical system. We have the Reading Data with Children. We've initiated initiatives in academia, at universities, with these young students. We are promoting the understanding, their use of statistics for their future use and decision making. So this collaboration, this the monitoring, how countries are achieving SDGs by numbers. It's not interesting to have like a session like this one in localizing SDGs without something that is showing how countries are progressing in implementing SDGs. So we should make statistics available, used, and accessible for just the sake of monitoring SDGs. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think I'll start by recognizing Honorable Minister Jean-Marie Vianney Gatabazi for joining us. Thank you, sir, for being here. And I'll just do a quick recap. I know the panel was focusing on localizing the SDGs in East Africa, and we heard from the keynote speech the intentional. Then they have to renew their commitment to the SDGs. It's all about our people, and the power and the opportunity we have to lead within this particular decade should help us to impact on the people in terms of advancing the education agenda, the health agenda, and giving a better life to these people using that agenda at government level, which local governments could also benefit more. then there is the decentralization as an agenda in promoting, and which all of us, I think, in this room strongly believe too. We do think that with all the efforts so far done by leaders at all the level to make decentralization a success, we can only recognize that if we further implement this policy, we're setting ourselves to be successful also in domesticating and local for this success. Of course, we heard from the youth, leave no one behind is key. Young people are ready and committed to work with leaders in this region to domesticate, and they're also ready to work with leaders. And I was impressed by one particular call she made, which I think is timely for Rwanda. She said, when you look at local councils, how many young people do we have there? So maybe we have an opportunity, and also challenging you, Aisha, and other young people in Rwanda. We have upcoming elections here, and this is an opportunity young people can seize. There is a private sector, and there is also the need for volunteerism. Of course, as we're making reference to volunteerism, we're pointing to young people, but we also believe that people of a certain age, thanks to the wisdom.
General of umbrella associations, representatives from ministries and elimination of county integrated development plan. Integrates the national agreed on SDGs indicators. Components of the performance management framework, and SDGs mainstreaming is mentioned as one of the key areas of performance contracting. So we have to motivate the officers, and they must now pursue that line. County governments have developed monitoring and evaluation frameworks to support tracking of implementation of the goals. 7, county governments have also institutionalized SDGs coordination through the appointment of county SDGs champions, just like the young lady here, and the establishment of county SDGs units. These units continue to undergo continuous capacity building so that they are able to support preparation of county SDGs progress report. 8, the coordination between the national government and the county government has been enhanced with the establishment of SDGs liaison office at the Council of Governors. The Council of Busia, Kisumu, and the governor is in response to the impact of COVID-19. The county governments developed a county COVID-19 socio-economic recovery and re-engineering strategies to support the sub-national recovery and resilience in the wake of pandemic. And we are mobilizing the development partners to move with us. Kenya's institutional framework of SDGs implementation is designed to ensure the successful localization and implementation of SDGs through devolved structures. In conclusion, may I re-emphasize that our sub-national governments are playing a critical role in the implementation of SDGs. We therefore need to speak with one voice and continuously advocate for support from our respective national governments. That has been repeated by the panel here. Thank you for listening to me. May God bless you. However, parting words for the Minister of Local Government. The parting words, the theme, Waziri, the theme of today is leverage the role of local and county governments to fast track achievement of East African community integration agenda. Waziri, this is a message you are going to pass to His Excellency the President Kagame, H.E. Kagame, who has transformed Rwanda completely, who has also brought total peace to this country. Absolutely. This extraordinary, I repeat, this extraordinary statesman need a proposing the kind of reward we can give to His Excellency. That is, the moment we achieve our theme of East African community integration, let him be the first president, Mara Moja.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. You really deserve that, because the speech is impressive. And I hope we'll keep it in the record, because it's very inspiring. And at least it's also setting the way. It's telling us, as we develop and we finalize our roadmap to leveraging the role of local and county government to fast track the achievement of the AC integration agenda. One, we will recognize the great leaders, as His Excellency Paul Kagame, as you mentioned, but I also hope that by 2030, we will also recognize the contribution of the local leaders in East Africa, including the one in this room. Are we committed to that? The yes is very, very shy. Can I have a good one? Is it a big yes? So thank you very much. Now that you're committed to fast-tracking the agenda and SDGs, I think our job as panelists is well done. If I'm evaluating ourselves, just allow me to invite you to help me welcoming and thanking again our panelists. I will start by the young and brilliant lady, because she called upon us to not leave them behind. So thank you very much, Aisha, for being here, and thank you in thanking you with a round of applause.
Thank you.
So I will also thank very much for the keynote speech. Thank you very much, Honorable. That was very impressive. And we hope that we'll also get the opportunity to get it and put it as part of the reports, and also some of the record which we need to take note of as part of what EALGA would like to do moving forward. So thank you very much, Honorable Abdul. We're very grateful for your keynote speech. I will again thank you, His Excellency Wambora, very much for your contribution to the panel and your final speech, which I think is also inspiring for all of us. And of course, the numbers do matter, yeah? So we thank very much the National Statistics of Rwanda for joining us through Jean-Claude and for his own contribution. I don't want to forget Pascal. Pascal, you have been a champion of integration. Though you haven't been able to join us physically, but we still had you virtually. I don't know if you could still put your camera on, as we want to thank you. So thank you very much for your contribution, and particularly for the success stories from Uganda, which you shared with us, and I think which will be useful to all of us moving forward. So I'll now invite the panelists to serve as a moderator, and we are very happy to be part of this process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please join me for a round of applause to the keynote speakers, the moderator, and the speakers. Now, as she said, happy to welcome Mr. Dr. Juma Nyende for remaining is too short. I'm sure you will make it short as well.
I don't know whether I'm breaking the rules by removing my mask, but I'm finding it very hard to speak and maybe breathe at the same time with the mask on. You'll just excuse me for that. My very good friend, Prosper, who is as well the moderator of this very important session, and my old boy, we went to school at a certain level together with Prosper. It was exciting meeting you again. I don't have much time, so you'll excuse me with my protocol, but allow me to recognize the Minister of Local Government and another minister or representative of the central government, our colleagues from the East African Community States, the governors, the chairpersons, the presidents, the President, East African Local Government Association, colleagues in the East African Local Government Fraternity, ladies and gentlemen. I'm called to make a presentation at a very interesting period. First of all, when everyone is tired, including myself. And secondly, after Prosper has announced that we shall be having dinner thereafter, so maybe people could be already planning on how they'll be having the dinner. I had been initially given 30 minutes, something that is not very possible at the moment. So I'll try as much as possible to be short in my presentation. But before I indulge into that, allow me also thank the former moderator, for having made those very, very big recognitions. And I think that is very important because it's not only inspiring, but it also reminds us on where we're coming from. And for myself, I forgive her because she only mentioned our colleagues, the ladies. She wasn't gender sensitive. She forgot me, that somehow I was also part of the team, though at a much later stage, I was a member of EALGA before joining UCLJ Africa. So I just wanted to bring this out that I also started from EALGA before joining UCLJ Africa. And we are the same people, and I think we shall be driving the agenda forward. As mentioned earlier, I was given 30 minutes. Let me see whether I can make this within less than 10 minutes, within under 10 minutes, and I think this will be possible. The topic that I was given to present is highlighted and is a good one, only that it was specific in the context of the regional agenda. And when we talk about regional agenda, we are talking about East African community. We are also talking about the regional action plan for UCLJ Africa. We had a plan, and we are going to have a plan. And I'll be taking you through all that as we go through the presentation. Okay? But before that, allow me say something little about UCLJ Africa, because I can see there are many people in this room who may not be knowing much about UCLJ Africa. UCLJ Africa is the Africa chapter of the world body called UCLG, which is based in Spain, Barcelona. The chapter for Africa, for which I work, is based in Rabat. But additionally, we've got regional offices. And the regional office for the Eastern Africa region, where I'm director, has been, until recently, based in Tanzania, Arusha. But we are on the move to Nairobi, Kenya. We've got other regional offices in Cairo for Northern Africa, Pretoria for Southern Africa, Accra for West Africa, and Libreville for Central Africa. We shall be sharing the presentation, so I don't need to take you through most of the details on the presentation. There's something that is very important whenever we are making presentations in respect of the role of UCLJ Africa. UCLJ Africa is a body that brings together local governments and local leaders in Africa. And as I mentioned earlier, we are part of a bigger network, that is the global network. So, in whatever we do, we believe UCLJ Africa has got the legitimacy of working for the local leaders, for the local councils, and working with them. So, when you have got UCLJ Africa as a partner, you know very well that we are dealing with, so that is 45 countries, with the exception of about 3 countries at the moment that are politically not so stable, but very, very active, at least in 40 countries at the moment. We've got an elaborate political structure, just like the one that we have for EALGA. It is almost the same structure, but now at the continental level. But as you heard, also as a region, we have got a structure. And our Vice President is present here, Mr. Councillor Wimana, who was also elected as chairperson of EALGA. So I think he will be doubling, and that is fine for us. We have got networks, professional and special group, interest group networks for the youth, for the women. And we've got partners, many partners. So when we talk about UCLJ Africa and UCLJ Africa doing work in the East African region, it means that we are dealing with an organization that has got partners, that has got experience, that has got the legitimacy, and that can also mobilize. And I think that is very important. Action plan for the region. As I mentioned earlier, we just finished an action plan, and in the interest of time, I don't think it matters much talking about it. Let me talk about the action plan that we are in the process of building. We are building a work plan in concert with the associations in the region that are members of EALGA Africa. As you can see, we made the identification of the priorities. We made that together. We had the regional meeting, and that was completed. Hello? Oh, I can use this one. Okay. Because the other one is reflecting. Thank you. And we are in the process of drafting the regional action plan, and a team was selected of 3 people. It is constituted of our programs officer, the task manager. He's actually from Rwanda, Mr. Jerome Byukusenge, but he's not present with us here. And on that team, we've got someone from Seychelles, and also someone from EALGA. So those 3 members are helping us to put together a regional action plan after having been guided. In EALGA Africa, just I think like EALGA, we believe we don't have to come up with a plan. We must develop the plan together. So that is ongoing. We believe that between around the 3rd week of October, we shall send this work plan to the technical officers for the associations. They'll go through, and then we shall have it validated by EALGA Africa to see whether it is compliant with our matrix, and most likely it will be because we are already following it. And on the 1st week of November, we shall present that action plan to the EXCOM. Why November? Would like to coincide this with your coming to Nairobi for the regional caucus. So we believe that the action plan should be ready by that time, and we shall try as much as possible to see whether we can slot in a time when we can go aside and have the action plan reviewed and approved. So we believe that by the 2nd week of November, we should have the action plan, the inception of the action plan, and then from November 2021 to November 22, we have the action plan implemented. Why am I mentioning this one first? Because we are trying to say that it's important to talk about the work plan for 2022 than the work plan for 2021 that expired together with the strategic plan of EALGA Africa that is also expiring this year. So we are doing this work plan in relation to 3 main guiding documents. The first one is called the Governance Advocates Decentralized Development Program for Africa, which we call GADEPA in brief. And this is GADEPA 2. The first GADEPA is expiring this year, and already this one we have started on it. So we've got 3 pillars for the GADEPA, as highlighted there on the screen, and we've got priorities. This is now where the interest comes in most in relation to the topic that I'm handling. We are talking about priorities. The GADEPA highlights priorities. We've got other instruments in the region that also highlight priorities. You're coming from countries that highlight priorities. Now EALGA is also highlighting its own priorities. We've got the global priorities like SDGs. This word has been, everyone is talking about SDGs. And we have also got priorities at national association level. So it means that there must be a meeting point of these priorities. So these are the priorities of the GADEPA. which GADEPA will be running for 10 years. And as you can see, these priorities, I know these priorities are quite, they are not strange to many of you because they don't, the wording may differ, but the content in there may not differ much. So those are the priorities we have. We have to also talk about the East African Community Vision 2050 as also a guiding document because we are talking about the East African region. And you can see these are the priorities of the vision. And if you are to look back, you see that there is a big meeting point in between the priorities for Vision 2050 and also the ones of the GADEPA, the last slide. But I picked out one particular paragraph that with a few highlights that are of interest. The East African community in its own document is talking about empowering communities. At the same time, it is talking about participatory planning, budgeting, and demanding for accountability from the local administrators. And I think this is part of the principles that we are supposed to follow, part of the things that we are supposed to be doing. If we are to make activities, these are some of the defining corners that we have to follow. Within ESC Vision 2050, there is now the 6th ESC development strategy. And those are the priorities for the strategy, and also listed are the principles of the strategy. As mentioned earlier, you'll excuse me, I'm trying to go a little bit fast, but this presentation will be shared. But when you look at the priorities and the strategies of the, and the principles of the strategy, most of them are almost, they are pointing in the same direction. Activity focus. What are we going to focus on? Or what are we attempting to focus at when it comes to the action plan for 2021-2022? The action plan is divided into three. The three pillars that we looked at a little while ago, that is advocacy and mobilization, and then the rest. Under advocacy and mobilization, we are talking about strengthening partnerships towards the achievement of global and regional agenda. We are saying that other than UCLJ, us sitting in Rabat or somewhere in the office and coming up with an action plan, we must develop it together. So in other words, the action plan for Eastern Africa should be quite different from that one of West Africa because conditions are a little bit different. But in principle, they will remain the same. So for East African region, we are talking about strengthening the partnerships for a global and regional agenda, and some of the activities are listed down there, but I would like to highlight just a few. It's about SDGs. SDGs, when we say localizing SDGs, it means that we are doing, everything is going to be brought anew. No, I think this is not the direction, but we do it in an organized way. We know the set targets that we have to meet, and we know the path that we have to follow, and the approach also to use, and then we report. Reporting is very, very important. We also report afterwards. When we talk about localizing SDGs under UCLGA Africa, we normally try to bring out those key elements. When we talk about localizing SDGs, many people have always thought that this is the role of the local governments themselves or within the local government fraternity. And we think that no, the stakeholders, if in some countries, if we to look at the way systems are, you may find that even the central government has got a very big role to play or a bigger role to play in the localization of SDGs. Why? Because most of the roles that are supposed are conducted at the central government level. So localization does not only mean making a plan, but also it means having that plan facilitated, having that plan reviewed, having that plan evaluated, and so on and so forth. Let me also point out something from the African Union. Ladies and gentlemen, as you are aware, we've got a charter on the values and principles of local development, local governance and development. And this AU charter, in the Eastern Africa region, only two countries have ratified. That is Burundi and Seychelles. So, and this charter has been in place for over 10 years now, and most of the countries that we have in the region are practicing decentralization. Actually, many of the countries, almost all the text in the charter is already covered on the ground. So this is one of the areas where we need to move in and lobby the central governments through you, the local sessions, so that we can have the charter ratified. The details will come in the the action plan when we look at it while in Nairobi. The regional economic communities. One of the panelists here was talking about having space for the youth. What about the space for the local governments at the regional level? We've been advocating for this. EALGA has been doing it also, and I think it is something that we should resume. We know that there was a stop put somewhere because membership status and collaboration. Then under the pillar 2, there is capacity building and knowledge management. There are also activities that will be considered under knowledge management, and there is institutional strengthening, and there is improved communications and establishment and support to professional and special interest groups. Lastly, is pillar number 3. We are also going to have activities under pillar number 3. That is access to finance and technical assistance to regional and local governments and their national associations. This is very important. We believe that for us to move forward, we need to access finance opportunities or the finance market. And we also need technical assistance. We have already been doing it, as you heard. EALGA was very strong in that field of capacity building. And as we hear that we are now reawakening again, EALGA again, I think this is the road that we shall be taking. And UCLG Africa has got a fully-fledged African Local Government Academy, which is also based in Morocco, which until the disruptions brought about by COVID, was doing a lot of good work. I think we'll also be resuming. We have got so many local government academies or institutes around the region. There is one in Tanzania, there is a School of Governance in Kenya, there is one in Uganda, Civil Service College, and so on and so forth. So we need to enhance our capacity, pull it together, and then impart it to our members, either as individuals or as councils. And lastly, ladies and gentlemen, there have been lots, let me use that word, until the disruption of COVID. We don't know what is coming next. But we realize that there are always lots of opportunities out there if you move out and you are ready to encounter the requirements. We had started on that approach where we make the proposal writing. This is where a lot of effort is not being placed, and in the end, there is a lot that we are losing. So we believe we should move out, especially in areas where we are going to focus. You heard about climate here. There's a climate fund. I don't know whether there is any local government amongst us here that is accessing that fund already. And It is there, it can be accessed, and the procedure is known. So we think we can work together with EALGA. We enhance our capabilities, and we are able to support the local government. So the details will come out in the action plan. And of course, we would also like to see to it that we work on the program of partnerships and training. Of course, having delivered about the action plan, it will not be justice for me to leave this stage without talking about Afri-Cities. I know it has already been done ably, but that is from a different angle. And also from our angle, just allow me 2 minutes to talk about Afri-Cities. As you heard, EALGA is committed to mobilizing its members. And as you also heard, yes, the intermediary cities, or secondary cities, as others may call them, and reason that the talk of people saying that maybe we change the name to something that can be easily understandable is increasing. But as you may agree with me, once a name or once something has been coined, the changing at times becomes hard. You've heard, I don't know whether Professor, they have agreed on this one. It is still being called Afri-Cities 2021. Some people are saying it is Afri-Cities 2022. But because it came out, it was given birth as Afri-Cities 2021. And you saw this also with the Olympics. It didn't change it to Olympics 2021. It remained 2020. So at times, the word Afri-Cities does not mean that it is confined to only cities. No, it is a forum for local government leaders and local government councils. Let us understand it that way. So we need to mobilize ourselves. One thing that I have to also put out clearly is that the onus of logistical support is on the participants. It is not on the organizers. So I've seen so many people flocking, as you had, integrated transport, or by whatever means. It might be a little bit chilled elsewhere. As I close my small remarks on Afri-Cities, allow me, the Kenyan delegation, and the chair, Council of Governors, and the governors around to convey our gratitude to Madam Jacqueline for that great work, the big role that she played in having Afri-Cities in our region, and particularly in Kisumu. If I'm to recall very well, it was on the 22nd of November 2017 when I and her sat in Kware, and I told her about Afri-Cities. She had never heard about it. She told me, "Are you sure? It is a conference that brings about over 5,000 people. Are you sure? I'm going to talk to my people." And that is how it started. And originally, we thought, we said we don't want, it was in Nairobi in 2006, I think. So we said we don't want Nairobi, and this time we want something different. Why are we going to the big cities? So myself, I'll confess, I proposed Mombasa because we're in Mombasa, and I saw many hotels, and I saw that it was something that would boost tourism of the area and of the country. But she said, "No, I'll tell you the name of the city at a later stage." And I think through your processes, this is how we come up with Kisumu, and I'm happy that it is also Kisumu because there's a lot about Kisumu. I thank you very much. Sorry for having moved also on on the other direction, but remember, it would be not fair for me to leave without speaking about Afri-Cities. I thank you very much, and looking forward to seeing you in Nairobi on the 29th for the caucus. Thank you, asante sana.
Can we put our hands together for Dr. Juma again for the insightful presentation? And I'd like again to invite you for exchange for a few minutes, like 2 or 3 inputs from the audience so that we better understand the presentation of Dr. Juma. You are welcome. Whoever wishes to express can raise his hands, and the protocol will facilitate him. Yes, Governor Gasana, please join him.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Thank you, senior officials. And thank you so much for the EALGA session under the theme leveraging the role of local government and county governments to fast track achievement of the EAC integration agenda. My comment will go to the previous panelist, and even also for the current one. Mine is specific, but in the general terms that constitute the EAC integration, particularly when it comes to the local government as an emerging mechanism to fast track the integration agenda. Honorable Minister, members, we live in a changing world, and of course dictated by the trend of the innovations by the use of ICT and other technologies. We have been informed about the linkage between the people, planet, peace, prosperity, and partnership. So, localizing and fast-tracking of the 17 SDGs require, no doubt, this kind of cooperation and collaborative arrangement. And therefore, my recommendation here is that we should strongly emphasize on the exchange programs, sharing of experiences, engagement, innovation and change, and even where possible, governance models. Some of these initiatives that come along enhances homegrown solutions. And some of these also inform the transformation agenda. So drawing from Kenya governance systems, South Sudan, anywhere else within the framework of the EAC, gives us a picture of moving together in form of twinning or drawing lessons here and there. So I'm trying to emphasize on the innovation and the change as we fast track the integration in the context of the localized environment, talking about now the local government. So basically, that was my recommendation. Otherwise, everything is set, and we are happy for the commitment of the leadership and other policy, highlights and informative discussions that have been taking place. But for the most part, I wanted to emphasize on the innovation and the change because we live in a changing world. Thank you so much.
Can you take another one before Dr. Juma comments? So I think there's no more comments. So you can comment the governor's comment.
Of course, Honorable Governor, all I can do is to thank you for throwing more light. And what you said is very correct. And I think the word homegrown solutions is one of the key things that we have to implement this, the agenda that we have, because if we try to copy, it becomes a little bit complicated. So for having thrown that light, and I know it was a matter of time, but there could have been a lot that you would have said about Rwanda. And thank you too for the work that you are doing in Rwanda, plus your colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Juma. Thank you for the audience. Honorable Minister of Local Government in Rwanda, Honorable Minister in the Ministry of Devolution in Kenya, Honorable Governors from Kenya and Rwanda, Honorable PSs, distinguished invited, ladies and gentlemen, we have come almost to the end of the day one. As communicated before, Honorable Minister of Local Government will be offering the gala dinner from 7 in the next hall, MH2. Before that, we will have a coffee break just in front of this hall. But before we conclude, I wish to remind the time respect for tomorrow. As you can see, we have 3 sessions remaining, and we have arranged that we have the time to prepare our departure for the international delegates. So I recall that tomorrow from 8:30 to 9 we'll be joining our seats here in the room, and we will start at 9 sharp. Today we have encountered delays all along from the beginning up to now, but please everyone make sure that tomorrow is a successful day for us. The gala dinner in Rwanda, we call it Igitaramo, and Igitaramo is an opportunity for all of us to explore the uniqueness of Rwanda through its culture, and it will be the occasion to interact with everyone who is present here. It will be a good occasion to understand how Rwanda is different from your countries, and we know when we visit you, we will also see how you are different from us. So, Honorable Minister, allow me to communicate that we can go for the coffee break and relax for a few hours remaining, and then we come back for the gala dinner in MH2. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, and the distinguished dates.